Hello and welcome to this episode of Inside View. I'm Phil Weaver. I'll be your host today, and we're here today with Tom Calmese of Green Gold Cultivators. Hello, Tom. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Very good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, let's get into how did you get into what led you to start a is it a dispensary collective? Is there a difference? First off?
Technically, yes, there is a difference between a dispensary and a collective. Now with the way California law is with the regulation, pretty much it's just dispensaries now. Collectives were usually a cooperative type thing where people work together, like maybe multiple people to grow to get to the collective to distribute, the medical marijuana back to people that participated or patients that couldn't, grow for themselves, things like that. Now it's more of like a retail store kind of type thing.
Okay, so a different business structure.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that? Okay.
Well, originally got into the dispensary. Started the dispensary from growing. Started growing a little bit, and just a small type thing, but that developed into the dispensary. And we used to be able to grow for the dispensary, but that's not the case anymore. So now we have to, buy all of our product from distributors and stock the shelf with that.
I see. Great. So what was it like, the transitioning from that being a grower to opening a dispensary? Was it a lot of paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy, or was it smooth?
Yeah, it was a good amount of paperwork going through all the permitting process and all these different things, the compliance. I mean, you have to fill out good amount of packets, submit different things, make sure you're checked off at least locally by pretty much every department in the county, the planning department, the building department, the fire department, the sheriff's department.
So that's standard. That's all standard business stuff.
You have to sign off on the things.
Right. How about the state level though?
The state level is kind of the same thing. Background checks for everybody. You have to same thing, go through all their compliance. But for the most part, if you're already legal through your county, you don't have to go through it necessarily every single step like that. I mean, they don't send the building inspectors through your place of business, like the county might check up on you and do that.
Right. Okay. Good. And how do you feel it's being accepted? Do you get a lot of people that are obviously don't like it, and some that do? I mean, how is that? Is that shifting?
I think it is. I think people are more accepting of it now than prior or in the past. I mean, you definitely have some people that believe I guess it shouldn't be around or really dislike it for whatever reason, but I just don't think they really understand the benefits of it. Sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of education that's needed.
Yes.
Obviously, and hopefully we can do some of that tonight. So first thing, I was actually looking through your website and interested in the use of language. So I noticed you don't have the word marijuana on there that I could find anywhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, mostly it's probably medical cannabis.
It's shifted to cannabis. Yeah. I was actually in Colorado in November of 2012, which was a historic date, listening to Steve D'Angelo, and I think he prompted the idea of using the word cannabis, getting away from the word marijuana, because it had been used in so much propaganda and renaming it. Yeah. Is that important to you?
I mean, it might be verbiage people are maybe more comfortable with. I mean, some people might still say that marijuana. I mean, cannabis, marijuana, I mean, it's the same thing, so it's just I think maybe more of a preference. And I think maybe as far as especially companies and printed, I mean, because I don't believe it's against the rules to say marijuana. I just think people have just switched over to cannabis because maybe market wise maybe it sounds better, I guess, or sounds less threatening possibly.
Well, the point then was that in the propaganda that was used because it was a slang. Right. It was a very racist propaganda that was used against that word, and then bringing back the word cannabis, because that's actually what it's called. It's cannabis sativa or cannabis indica is the plant name. So in also the word hemp, I know that. With the Farm Bill of 2018, which was signed in by President Trump in 2018, which was great, but now that became commercially able to grow that for commercial and industrial uses. But the usage of the word, they changed the word hemp from what it was, which was a very tall, lanky plant used for industrials, and redefined it as something that had that low THC. Do you think that that's confusing the market or anything?
Maybe for some people, because I mean there is a lot of like hemp-derived CBD that you can buy pretty much online. I mean, I think there's health stores that sell it. I mean, and I don't think, or I'm not positive, but I think you might just have to be like 18 years old to, obtain, hemp-derived CBD at, say, like, because I've seen it at liquor stores, by the counter, and like, gummy bears, CBD gummy bears, and all CBD, and I always read what's in there, and it's always hemp-derived.
Yeah.
And
well, but what that means is now very vague, because hemp now could be the small, very pure indica plant, or it could be that industrial hemp.
Well, typically, if anything in the market of, like, say, a health food store, or say a liquor store, or a regular store that's hemp, it's going to be industrial hemp.
Yeah.
Typically, in the THC levels in that are below their
0.3.
Yeah, 0.0 something. It's 0.03 sometimes 0.3, but they're very minute to where they don't have. I think if you were to get tested or something like that, it's not going to show anything in a person's system.
Sure. Right, yeah. So what I see with that language is that now you've got this CBD market, and which is hemp, and I see a lot of those sites are talking about, trying to actually say that they're not cannabis, or they don't have that exact language, but there's a lot of language about that, trying to make it seem like it is a different product and all that.
Yeah, they're related products. Hemp and cannabis plants are very closely related.
Well, especially if you're using, a good quality strain, then they're the same. There's just so I'm just curious if that's like splitting the market away to with that, to where people are not understanding that they're the same.
Some people I think probably may not, because we get people that come to our store and just had experience using the hemp CBD, and they found it beneficial. And there's definitely many positive and good effects that people will experience from that, or someone will experience from that. However, if they are using that and experiencing benefits, depending on what they're using it for, what element they might have, they'll probably find ample effects in, say, a cannabis-derived CBD, because there's a lot more cannabinoids in cannabis than there is hemp. And then just the combination of even the higher THC from cannabis and the CBD, which a lot of people like using, is going to have 10 times fold the effects than just, say, regular hemp-derived CBD by itself.
Right. Yeah, it's just a much higher quality, and you probably have a lot less, because cannabis being a bioaccumulator, you have a less chance of contamination with a properly derived.
Especially now, anything that like we sell, or anything on the legal market at a legal retail store, they have to go through vigorous testing that it ensures that you're not getting any sort of contaminated product with anything. They have very strict tests that, if the plants have, they're using hard pesticides, they'll fail. If they're using, anything that has heavy metals, there's tons of reasons they would fail. So the positive thing is, on the end result, anything that you're buying at a legal store, like our store, it's a good, safe product, and you could have confidence knowing that you're getting high quality medication and not something that might be harmful.
Right. Yeah, that was actually, I was very interested in the testing. So the testing is not only the cannabinoid structures, lack of molds, but also heavy metals, pesticides, anything like that.
They test for a bunch of different things. Just on the pesticides alone, they run like 64 different tests, looking for a variety of different pesticides. Different mold spores. Any funguses. There's there's a lot of different things that they check off. It's much more than it used to be. Because prior to 2018, there really wasn't a standard. People would get product tested, but there wasn't, the state wasn't saying, oh, you have to test for this or test for that, where now they do. So it's very specific. They have to pass all these different tests before they're considered safe to be consumed or used, or however they're being used.
Yeah, I know the old connoisseurs had the ash test.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
You probably tried it, but now it's it's far more sophisticated than that, and it's which is a positive thing. Just you're putting it in your body. You want to make sure you're getting something helpful, and not harmful.
Especially if you're using it for medicine, right?
Yes,
you
absolutely.
don't want to be causing problems by doing that. What's going on with is a lot of the product sun grown now versus before it was indoor? And is that shifting also?
No, there's still there's both. I mean, there's definitely people that have preferences. Just like on wine, red wine, white wine. People with cannabis, some people want indoor. Some people they don't. Some people just want something good and they don't care necessarily if it's indoor or outdoor. As long as they like it, they're cool with it. But I'd say that the market's both competitively equal in sense. I mean, I know as far as us being able to buy stuff just from legal distributors, they have tons of indoor options. They have tons of greenhouse options, outdoor options. The outdoor typically though on the consumer side, you can get a little cheaper, and so I mean a lot of times too, if you're looking just for a bang for your buck, I mean you can find a high THC testing outdoor that's maybe testing as high as the indoor, but it's maybe half the price. So there's just, like I said, it's preferences. Everybody has different things that they like.
Yeah, would that be more typical for an indoor to be higher THC? I know that was kind of the belief.
Sometimes, but we've had our store open, Green Gold here in San Andreas, since 2013, and especially more recently, and especially since 2018, everything having to be tested and required to be tested in the it's right on the packaging, whatever you're looking at, and I've seen hundreds to thousands of different strains and a variety of indoor, outdoor, and I mean I've seen outdoor that's testing as high as indoor.
Right.
I think it's more like the genetics. I mean, if you have a good genetic and then you have good growers, whether it's outside or in a greenhouse or indoor, I think they're going to produce a good product.
Sure. Yeah, it would seem that it would be produced well the natural way. Right? Yeah. Do you think a lot of people that are seeking out the product do they care about, like, I mean, it's not organic, but how was it grown? Was it grown naturally with just natural products versus commercial synthetic fertilizers? Is that a concern for a lot of people?
For some people, care? It is, and for the most part on the cannabis, I mean, most farmers, I mean, they want to have a good product, and not only that, nowadays with the testing, I mean, they're probably trying to do as organic as possible. And however, though, but organic being, I think, a government.
Yes, the term you can't.
Yeah, they can't actually use it legally on any type of thing. So I think in a lot of the companies now, they call it green grown, or they use a different term, but essentially that's what they're trying to indicate it means until they're able to get an official approval.
Well, but they're self-policed, right?
Yeah. Well, the testing too. I mean, like, because if you're using I mean, people can use synthetics. I mean, as long as it's being able to pass and test. But on a moral standpoint, I mean, a lot of people consuming it. I think especially on the medical side, that's a preference, and a lot of companies are conscious with that. Like a lot of companies, especially now, whatever brand it is you get and check out. I mean, they'll have websites, information, and they'll and you could go on their sites and look kind of through the they're kind of proud of what they're doing, trying to show what they're doing. How they're eco-friendly, how they're not trying to make waste, and how they're trying to produce a good product and good high quality product, doing the right thing, I think.
Yeah. I've spoken to Oregon growers a lot, and they're using some very cutting edge growing techniques, which are actually very old rediscovered growing techniques, such as biochar and things like that. And so I think that trend seems to be catching on, which makes sense, because that's going to produce, there's a lot of different things going on in the plant that produce different effects. So that brings us actually to the concept of the entourage effect. Do you think that the entourage effect is something real?
I don't know.
You don't know. There's a lot of controversy about the combinations of. So you've got 113 different cannabinoids, and I think 13 terpenes. Is that correct?
Well, and the plant entirely, it's like I don't want to misquote it, but it's over 400 different cannabinoids in the cannabis plant itself entirely. I mean, I think it's under 500, like somewhere around like 460. I'm sure someone could Google it and find out exactly, but
it's controversial. Actually, the numbers aren't exactly.
It varies from site to site.
Yeah, they're still discovering.
Yeah, that's probably true too, I imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a handful of different terpenes in there, and the terpenes are going to be the flavor, the profile of the plant.
Sure.
And nowadays with technology, especially with the oils, they could get this really high THC oil, and then they could infuse it back with the terpenes that they extracted out to make these wonderful flavor blends.
Right. Well, the terpenes will have an effect as well, because that's the basis. The terpenes are the same thing that goes on in aromatherapy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the same process.
No, and they are able to get those. Now you're able to get terpenes too. Like it is, but they're kind of pricey compared to like just getting the oils. But they sell those and you can actually buy just terpenes by themselves now. But they're, like I said, they're pretty pricey. Like I've seen them for around $100 a half gram. I mean, for really good high quality ones, where you can get a really good high quality oil by itself for like $50 a half or a whole gram. So it's they're just about double the price or so, or four times.
I see. So a connoisseur is looking for a nice terpene profile, and somebody that's very interested in the medical would also be interested in that.
Some, I mean, usually definitely depending how they're wanting to consume their medication, what their preference is. I know, like, on say vape pens or concentrates, people usually really want a good flavor profile or a good tasting, product. Where sometimes people want just like a full spectrum, more of like a RSO type thing, where that has all the cannabinoids, but like the flavor, because the way they concentrate it isn't necessarily, so great. I mean, he still does the same process. I mean, you're getting like ample medical benefit from it with having all the different cannabinoids in it. But usually, like, those type of things they're less flavorful than like some of the things where they extract it thoroughly to high THC sauce or oil. Then they introduce the terpenes back again, so they're getting the specific flavor they want. Sure.
So going into, how about market demand for different cannabinoid ratios? Like, do you get much demand for a 1-to-1 ratio? Or I know that obviously the high THC is
it's all demand. Popular, but especially with like the tinctures and capsules and those type of products. We have different things, 1-to-1s, 10-to-1s, 20-to-1s, and
how about in the flower? Do you have much of that in the flower?
Not a lot in the flower. That's definitely. I mean, there is some available, but it's far less. Usually on the people usually look into the ratios. They're usually more specific, like on, like I said, the tinctures and things like that. I mean, there is some flowers sometimes, on the CBD side that you can get like that. But it seems that, I mean, at least at our store, I mean, the majority of people usually looking for the CBD products are looking for either for like a CBD oil or a tincture. We do get the flower from time to time, but it's not that popular. It seems like compared to the other flower.
How about flower that has just higher ratios of CBD? I mean, or is the demand all towards the THC?
I'd say the demand's on the flower, the aspect of the dry flower for smoking. People seems it's much more popular on the THC stuff. I mean, there's a lot more people. Some come in there, they're looking for certain strains. Some people come in there like, what is the highest THC that you have in your flower? And so it's all different. But we do have like CBD product, or CBD flower, but it is less popular. I mean, like, they don't sell as much as the other ones, for sure.
Right. Do you think that market's out there and just not coming to you?
It possibly. I mean, it could be. Or I mean, I think a lot of times too. I mean, with the CBD ratios that people are working with, they're usually treating like a specific element, and a lot of times maybe they've got advice by their doctor trying a certain thing, and that's why they are going for the tincture, because it's easier to measure out like tinctures or capsules, because flower, I mean, I guess you just smoke until you feel it's working. While these things, you could literally medicate yourself out. Okay, I'm going to take 10 milligrams of CBD and 1 milligram of THC, or higher or lower, whatever you need, but you can know exactly what you're getting. Where I think just like if you had to take a pill or 2 pills for whatever ailment it is, it's just I think something easier to medicate yourself by knowing exactly what you're doing at each time, and especially with flower varying so much, even from batch to batch, it might be the same strain. Sometimes it'll be higher or lower, so maybe this time you have to smoke couple puffs. Maybe this time you have to smoke a whole joint. It's a little more, I think, trial. You know, you have to figure out with that.
Yeah, but with the flower, it's much easier to titrate. You can figure out the dosage easier.
I mean, you can. I mean, well, I don't know if you figure out easier. I mean, because it's
well,
more
just because the effect is faster.
Yeah, the effect is faster, but it doesn't typically last as long. That's one of the downsides. Like, it's instantaneous. I mean, you could smoke something and you're feeling it maybe in seconds or a couple minutes. While like if you had to take a sublingual product or an edible type product, you know, it might take a half an hour before you start feeling it, but then the effects are going to be drawn out for hours.
I see. So what medical benefits do you see with the high THC strains? What are people using that for?
A lot of times pain, I mean, maybe depression. I know that, I mean, where we're at, we specifically have a lot of medical vets or military veterans, and, you know, PTSD is a huge thing, and I know a lot of them use it for that, and a lot of them, people I've spoke with, you know, personally, I mean, they've told me their stories of, you know, using, you know, multiple medications, like tons and tons of different psychotic med pills, and, whatever they're prescribed, you know, from the VA. I mean, they're obtaining, but you know, cannabis, they're able to like cut back a lot of those, some eliminate them entirely. And, you know, from what I've been told, the people I know that have met, they, you know, told me they're living a better quality of life for it. And I mean, I've seen that with a lot of people, not just vets, but I mean, you know, our store has been open for nearly 7 years, I guess now, or 6 years. And I've met hundreds and thousands of people over the years. You know, I've not talked to everybody, but I've heard a lot of stories from people on how it's helped them in a variety of different ways. And, you know, it's definitely a good thing.
Right, right. So do you see a lot of people, like including the vets or others, that are using it to get off of opioid use? Some
people, yes. No, absolutely. There's some people that usually, you know, whatever they got prescribed that for, but I mean, that's you know, a strong drug, and sometimes, you know, affects people badly. I mean, especially if you get maybe addicted
like
to
killing them.
Yeah, like, you know, you could have died. You take too much of it, and you know, a lot of times people too don't, you know, they're just taking it because they're in so much pain, or, you know, whatever it might be. And I mean, we've met a lot of people over the years that have kind of weaned themselves off of that and other things, you know, in favor of cannabis.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting going on. If you're familiar with the MEPS project, I believe they're up in Washington.
Not positive.
Yeah, it's funded by Dr. Bronner, which is that Castile soap stuff, the natural soap. Very wealthy. He's got a lot, so he's funded that. But that is for vets, and they're using. They've used cannabis. They're using MDMA, and they're using psilocybin to get vets actually cured for that. I guess I don't know if I can use that word, but from PTSD.
It's helping them. Yeah, there's with the vets, there's a really good program that they have. It's called Weed for Warriors, and a lot of companies like myself and other companies in the legal industry, I'm sure, you know, people donate it to, but they'll get them product and things like that. And they have like meetings where, you know, they distribute amongst themselves, and it, you know, really helps them. I've met a lot of those guys, and you know, it's a really good program.
Yeah,
so
that's fantastic. I see CBN as becoming probably the next popular cannabinoid. Do you get any demand for that at all?
Yeah, no, we do, because we have specifically some CBN patches, and people are finding good effects with that. I mean, there is more testing goes on over the years. I mean, unfortunately, America and California, where we're at, is a little behind. I mean, like, there's other governments, like in Israel, they've been testing it since the 70s, so they were the first ones, like, starting to separate all these different cannabinoids and kind of testing and finding out different effects. And now that it's being more legal, those things are being allowed to be done here, and they're finding all sorts of good things. I mean, that's one of them. There's one they even found, THCV. It's another cannabinoid. They're finding that that pulled out by itself, and when it's like concentrated, they're finding it like as an appetite suppression, which is which is kind of neat, because usually you think the opposite of or cannabis. And but I mean, there's not a lot of strains that have high things of that, but I've been seeing some things on the market, and it's a lot of new stuff, especially the last couple years. The innovations of things. It's been a really kind of exciting time for this industry.
It seems like a lot of cannabinoids work like almost not in opposition, but the entourage effect, because like the THC may increase anxiety, but CBD gets rid of anxiety. So you know, THC could increase appetite, but now there's THCV.
Oh yeah, there's THCV. There's THCA. There's I don't know. I mean, all of them. I mean, but like I said, there's a lot of them.
It's hard to remember all 400. Yeah. Speaking of the CBN. I'm just curious about I was reading strains, and one strain like the glue strains, Gorilla Glue and that, and they seem to talk about a very sedative effect. Do you think that's high CBN quantity and that's doing that?
There might be some in there, but I think probably more on the indica effect. Like when you mentioned anxiety, like I don't think it's THC that turns it up. I mean, everything affects people differently, but the majority of people, like I would probably say maybe 80% of people that I've encountered, for example, like indica is much more known to kind of like slow them down, kind of maybe a thing you might want to do at nighttime, not during the day, because you might not feel like doing anything after you use it. But that's not for everybody. But sativa typically is more considered like a daytime use, more active, and that's also the one that's been more associated. I mean, I've met a handful of people that when they do sativas, it turns up their anxiety a little bit, but where if they do indicas, they don't experience that.
Right.
And so I don't think it's the THC necessarily that increases that. I think it might be the strain, and then it's like I said, it's not that for everybody, because I mean I've heard the majority of people I've met and talked to about that's their experience, but I've met people that have told me the 100% opposite, and so I think like Ritalin, some people the people that it's meant for slows them down, people that don't take it does the opposite, and I just everyone's system is different, but like I said, the majority, like I said, indica is the more of the sedative type thing that what sativa I think is the opposite.
Right. How about any of the Landrace strains? Any of those available or
sometimes
popularity?
Those are definitely not as abundant as they used to be. I mean, there is this out there still, but a lot of strains now seem like are majority hybrids or things that are popular, whatever's in demand. If something got in demand, I'm sure it'd be out in the market really well. But
I mean, and that shifts all the time.
Yeah, it kind of definitely does vary.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, I've seen like waves of different things. So that at one point, like when I kind of got first involved with having the store, I mean, everybody wanted purple products or purple strains, and there's still people that want that, but it doesn't seem like it was as popular then. And then like when cookies used to be like the biggest thing, and now like Zittles and all these other flavors that are newer and I guess the next best thing.
Yeah. So we're running out of time, but real quick, the black market obviously still exists.
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
Well, I think because one, they're not regulated, so they can do whatever they want, and I think they're not taxed, and so I think, for example, price-wise, it's as a legal store. I mean, maybe if you knew somebody that was growing this and it was selling to you a fraction of the price, well, maybe you're going to go to your friend instead of go to the store where you can get something similar, but it's going to cost you a lot more.
So it has a lot to do with the economics, the taxes, and all that. Right. Great. Fantastic. Okay. And why the name your store?
Green Gold.
Why? Where'd it come from?
Well, Green Gold Cultivators. That's the name of the store. Well, we used to grow, so that was where the cultivators came from. But they're just green, and at the time when we were getting involved in the early days, it seemed like a gold rush kind of thing. This is a gold rush area, so I thought the name was appropriate.
And we're here in the Hoarder 9800. Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a really interesting episode, and thank you for watching this episode. And I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed talking to Tom here, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.